Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well today. I just took a shower and I'm just going to put on my makeup, and I thought, well, what actually had happened was I had shot a video last night and experienced some technical difficulties, and so I just decided to scrap the whole thing and re-video it today. And I thought, well, why not just do it while I'm getting ready? Not that I'm going anywhere in particular, because the weather here in Wisconsin, as has been since probably the first part of January, is crappy out. Yesterday it was raining, last night it was thundering and lightning, today it is snowing and blowing and drifting and treacherous out, and I'm staying home today. So I hope that wherever you are, I hope and pray that you have better weather than what I am experiencing here. And anyway, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update and answer a few questions that I've had down in the comments below. And I am loving the questions, I'm loving the comments, and I would encourage you to continue to do that. You know, let's keep asking those questions. Let's keep being here for each other and encouraging one another to help each other out. I'm going to be looking over here part of the time as I'm talking because, I'm sorry, excuse me, my mirror's over here while I'm putting on my makeup. But anyway, as for my Topiramate update, still taking it. I am on, for those of you who are new here, welcome. I am on 50 milligrams. I take that once a day. I take that at night before I go to bed. And the reason that I take it at night, excuse me, before I go to bed, is due to the fact that when I had read about it, it talked as though it could potentially make a person sleepy. Well, I didn't feel as though I needed that at work, making me sleepy. And so I chose to keep it at nighttime, so I just take it at night before I go to bed. For those of you who are thinking about taking Topiramate, if you haven't spoken to your physician yet, how it works is, if your physician feels as though it's something that could potentially work for you, they won't give you a set dosage to start out with. You will do what they call titrating. And what that means is, for that first month, they will give you 25 milligram tablets. For the first week, you'll take 1 pill. The second week, you'll take 2 pills. The third week, you'll take 3 pills. The fourth week, you'll take 4 pills. And within that first month, you'll figure out, by paying attention to your body, how you're feeling, what's happening, as to kind of where your quote-unquote sweet spot is, as to if 25 milligrams is enough, if 50 is enough, if maybe you need 75 or maybe even the full 100 milligrams. For me, I found that 50 was enough, at least for now. I don't know, because I've never done this before. Maybe down the road that could change. But for now, 50 for me is my sweet spot. I have read where there are others that take the full 100 milligrams. And you may ask, why did I, or how did I come about choosing 50? And the way I did for me personally was because, excuse me, it's only 7:45 on a Sunday morning here in Central Standard Time, so got a little frog in my throat, so I'm sorry. The reason that I came up with 50, or felt that that was better for me, was because of the side effects was part of it. And the other part was well, I guess you would just call it a side effect, was that like the 75 to 100 milligrams, not only, it was making me, I'm just getting my sponge wet if you can hear me going, I would get extremely tingly. You know, like say if your hand falls asleep, your leg falls asleep kind of thing. Some of my extremities, like in this area, in the wrist area, if you watch some of my earlier videos, I'd encourage you to go back and I talk about that a little bit more in depth. But I would get that more, and it would actually, it had started, for me personally, everybody's different, was starting to affect me like into my neck and up into my face, and I didn't like that. And also it constipated me, just being raw and real with you. And I didn't, and even though I was pushing a ton of water to myself, I did not like that whatsoever. I did not like that at all. And so that's when I had decided that 50 milligrams was my sweet spot, so to speak. But again, everybody is different. Everybody's body reacts differently. Another good side effect that I have discovered with it has been the fact that it has, besides the weight loss, which to date, and I haven't stepped on the scale recently, but as of the last time I stepped on the scale, I've lost 34 pounds. And I did start on the Topiramate on December 3rd. Is the fact that when I had gone back to the doctor, just as a little bit of a follow-up, my blood pressure was so much better. Was it perfect? Not by any means, but for me, it was fantastical, because my blood pressure is usually not good. And so it was, my doctor was like so thrilled at the fact of my weight loss and my blood pressure. So she had no problem in renewing my prescription for it. And what she also did was, instead of 25 milligram tablets, for me to have to take 25, 225 every time, she changed it to 50 milligram tablets, so that way I only have to take one at a time. And so that helped, that was nice. And let's see, what else was I going to kind of inform you on? I know that one of you had mentioned in one of the comments about that you have had the Topiramate, but you haven't started it yet, and you were afraid of the side effects. And that's a legitimate concern. That is such a legitimate concern. And I was too. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. One of my all-time big concerns is always, is it gonna raise my blood pressure with anything? Just because my blood pressure is always, borderline to high anyway, depending on the day and my stress levels, like anybody. And but this in fact helped. And to give you a little bit of insight as to, for me personally, as to how it's helping me to lose weight, is, in my opinion, and of course, as I say, everybody is different, but for me, it helps me to not think about food 24/7. I don't know about you, and I can only talk on my own personal experiences. But I've always been heavy, okay? My whole entire life. I was like 8 pounds, 14 ounces when I was born. I don't know what my length was, but I was terribly heavy when I was even born. I've always been heavy. I was heavy compared to the rest of the kids in school, but as I look back on it now, like when I was in high school, like freshman, sophomore, I was around 175 pounds. I wish I was 175 pounds now. And I thought, you know, because I got picked on so terribly, I thought the world was coming to an end. And I would get on the scale when it was like 170, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get up to 175. I would step on it later, it'd be 175. I'm not gonna let it get up to 180. I would step on it later, it'd be 180. I'm not gonna let it get up to 185. And it would just keep going and going and going. And someday, hopefully, I will reveal how much I do actually weigh, which is I'm embarrassed and ashamed of right now, and I'm just being real and honest with you. And so for right now, I'm not going to reveal what I weigh. You can imagine. And in time I will, and hopefully that will help somebody, but for right now, for my own personal comfort zone, I just can't. But I will someday. We'll just say I'm well over 200 pounds. And I'll leave it at that. But I've tried numerous diets my whole entire life. One after the other. I've tried old-fashioned starvation. I've tried Richard Simmons, you know, with the cards, the Deal-A-Meal. Anybody old enough here to remember Deal-A-Meal or ever tried Deal-A-Meal? Which the concept was good. It was just hard for me to stick with it because I just felt like I was starving. It was just like I, you know, this is all I get to eat, and it was just a deprivation thing. And trust me, I'm coming back to the Topiramate and how it's helping, but I'm gonna get through these other things. I haven't forgotten. Let's see, what else have I done? I've done Atkins. I've done Susan Powter's Stop the Insanity. I've done Way Down workshops. I've done, oh my goodness, Slim Fast. I mean, you name it, I've probably done it. There are some things I haven't done only because of the fact that, you know, if it was a pill, I may not have done it only because of the fact that it would have some ingredient in it that would raise my blood pressure. And I would not do that to myself because I've always known that I've had kind of not the best blood pressure. And so there's that. But needless to say, I've been on a host of different things my entire life. Since I was a little kid. I mean, I love my family dearly, but that was always on the forefront. I mean, they could never just let it go. It was, I always got ribbed about my weight. It was like, can you just love me for who I am? Do you have to point out the fact that I'm overweight? I can see that in my body every day. And when I look in the mirror, I can see that every day. But I not only would get harassed at school, but I would get ribbed at home. I may have told this in another video at one point in time. I don't remember. I love and I miss my dad. My dad's been gone. He'll be gone 26 years this coming September. But I grew up on a dairy farm, and I can remember one time when we were down milking, and it was middle of winter, bitter, bitter cold out. And we milked in an old barn, like the wind went whistling through everywhere. And I was cold. It was cold out. I mean, even though I had boots on and sweatshirts and everything. And he turned to me and said, "I didn't think elephants got cold." I'm 50 years old. That's never left me. I don't dwell on it every day, but that really cut. With the Topiramate, it doesn't take those thoughts or feelings away. But for me, what it does help me with is it helps me to not consistently focus on food all the time. It helps me to feel satisfied with less food. It's strange because I can actually eat something and feel like, oh, that's good. I'm good. I'm okay. I've had enough. And I can actually walk away from and leave stuff on my plate. Now, I grew up in the era of the Clean Plate Club. You take it, you're going to eat it. There was never a, eat until you're full and then, type of situation. No, it was you took it, you're going to eat it, period. And because they're starving people in a third world country, like that's going to help them over there. But that was always the teaching, and our parents, that was the way they were brought up. They didn't know any better either. And so I cleaned my plate. I learned that I always had to clean my plate. And so that's what I did. And that's not always good either. The other thing I used to do would be, I've always been extremely hard on myself. And like if I were to, what do I want to say? Like there would be different times at home when I was a kid, and I'm a helper, I like to help people, and I would try to help my brother with different things at home, and he never wanted to be helped. And some people just don't like to be helped unless they ask for it. Because I think that they look at it as a sign of weakness, as though someone else thinks that they can't do it. And that's not where I come from. That's not how I feel towards that person. I don't think that they can't do it. I just see that maybe somebody needs help, and I'm willing and able to do some help, or provide some help. And so that's just it. That's just me. And he would not like that. He would be very defensive about those things. And he would get kind of rough and crude with me, so to speak. And as a result, I would get quite hurt because I was only trying to help him. And as a result, I would take it out on myself. What would I do? I would go to the house at night and I would get out a big cereal bowl and I would fill it full of ice cream. And I would put a bunch of chocolate syrup on it, maybe some caramel syrup if I had some of that. And we usually always had cookies or brownies or cake or pie or whatever, some kind of dessert, because either mom or myself, when I was old enough, we were always baking something. We lived on a farm. You always had meat and potatoes and vegetables and a dessert. And I would just pile everything on there. And I would literally say to myself, I'll show him. And I would shovel it into my face. I don't know exactly what it was that I thought that I was showing him by doing that. But that was my mentality at the time. And unfortunately, all I was doing was hurting myself. I wasn't doing anything to him. I wasn't showing him anything. But in fact, was punishing him, or excuse me, not punishing him, punishing myself, hurting myself, and making myself gain even more weight. It's a vicious cycle. And unless someone has walked a mile in those moccasins, you don't understand. The thing that just gets to me, that chaps my hide, is a thin person who's never had a weight problem in their whole entire life, who says to an overweight person, you know, just do it, just get healthy, just whatever, you know. Or, you know, if you've gone through something and you're trying to deal with something, just get over it. Just don't eat as much. Just exercise and just don't eat as much. Which, in theory, yes, that should just do it. But unfortunately, it's not that easy. It's not that. It just doesn't happen quite like that. Only because it is so mental. And I don't mean that from a crazy aspect, you know what I'm saying? I just mean that you just have to have a right mindset. And just like, how do I want to say? I had tried to explain to my kids, because I had gone to my kids before I had started on the medication. And I had said to them that I was going to go to, hard to put on, lipstick gloss stuff and talk at the same time. I'm not that talented. I'd gone to my kids, had said to them that I was going to go to the doctor and that I was going to seek out help for losing weight, because I just can't do it on my own. And, you know, and of course my son, who had been a little bit, who had struggled with his weight a little bit in school, when he was in high school, he had lost about 40 pounds or so, I guess. And just really was really driven and set his mind to it, and he did it, which is fantastic. And I'm extremely proud of him. Extremely. Oh. There, maybe I can just focus on you guys now instead of looking over here. Which, you know, again, I'm extremely proud of him for that. Very, very proud of him for that. But I also explained to my kids that for me, with the mindset that I've always had, the struggles that I've always had, it's kind of like telling someone with high blood pressure, just get over it, you know, without any kind of medication or any, you know, whatever, just get over it. You can't do that. You can't just get over it. And I said, for me, this is similar to that. I need help. And when I had gone to the doctor last fall. I'm trying to remember what I had said in my original video before everything kind of foobarred. I had gone to the doctor last fall, and she had said to me, well, just kind of popped off with, well, you'd be a candidate for weight loss surgery. And I'm like, no. I have friends who have had different types of weight loss surgery, and some of which were not successful. And I've watched them suffer terribly, and I'm not going to do that to myself. I will just stay fat first and struggle before I would do that to myself. And that's when I had said to her about getting on a medication. I had been on, several years ago, I had been on fen-phen. For those of you who are old enough may remember fen-phen. It was phentermine and fenfluramine. They had it on the market for a while. They pulled it off because of the fenfluramine portion of that combination. It was quite dangerous, and so they pulled it off the market. Years later, they put it back on just the phentermine portion. And I had gone back and talked to my doctor, and a different doctor had put me on the phentermine portion. The only problem with that, and it worked great. It worked fantastic. The only problem with that particular drug was that you could only be on it for 6 months, and then you had to come off of it. And so while I was on it for the 6 months, I probably lost, I don't remember now, probably 30 or 40 pounds. But then once I went off of it, I gained the weight back. It was similar with the Topiramate as far as changing how I looked at food, how I felt about things. I just didn't eat as much, satisfied with less type of thing. But when I went off of it, my brain went back to basically to day one, and there was no filter. So to me, the medication creates that filter, for lack of a better way to put it. Without it, it's like somebody who has a trashy mouth that has no filter. For me, with my eating, without a medication, I have no filter. I just don't know when to stop. And that's or how to be satisfied with less, because it's like you don't need a ton of food. But for whatever reason, my brain just does not work that way. And, that's okay. That's just the way my brain works. But that is how the Topiramate helps me, and that is specifically why I was put on the Topiramate, was for weight loss. Topiramate was actually originally put out, as my understanding is, for migraine headaches, and they found that one of the side effects was weight loss. And I have watched another video. There was another gal that had lost over 100 pounds, and which I had mentioned to her, commented on her video. I said, you give me hope. So when I started on this journey, again, I looked for videos because if I want to learn how to do something or learn more about something, 9 chances out of 10, I'm going to come to YouTube and I'm going to look it up, because 9 chances out of 10, someone's done a video about that. And I went out to YouTube to look up different things about Topiramate, and I found some things that were kind of unsettling, but I didn't really find anything that was truly helpful or kind of more long range, or something like what I have started to do, which was kind of my Topiramate journey. And Maybe that's what I should just call this, my Topiramate journey. I never thought about that. But I've been just calling it, you know, Topiramate update such and such, which I think this will be number 6. But I felt like, for me, it was important to put something out there. If someone found it and found that it was helpful to them, wonderful, because I didn't have that. But if I could provide something like that for somebody else, wonderful. I will say, with the weight loss, I haven't noticed it so much in my face and neck, which drives me crazy, but I have noticed it more so like in my waist, hips, thighs, and butt. I've noticed it, like, because I can tell in my jeans. And when you're a bigger individual, such as myself, losing 30 pounds, you're not going to notice it. Like somebody else isn't going to necessarily notice it on you. So if you are a bigger person like me and you lose 30, 40 pounds and nobody notices right away, please do not take offense to that. Please don't take offense to that, because the bigger you are, the longer it takes for somebody to notice the weight loss. If I'd been 150 pounds and lost 30 pounds, you'd be going like, whew, because it would look like such a drastic change, because you wouldn't be starting as big. So just hang in there, and the results will come. The most important thing is that if you have higher blood pressure, such as myself, if you have trouble sleeping and that your blood pressure comes down, that you start to sleep better, that you start to feel better. Something else that I wanted to address as well, one of the viewers had mentioned about going through some depression and I had spoke in a previous video about depression, and at first I was kind of wondering if it was the Topiramate, and I really don't know necessarily that it was that per se. I think I've just had a lot on my plate the last couple months going on in my life, between stresses at work, stresses in my love relationship, just had a lot on my plate, and how I've been viewing things, and I've been really, unfortunately, causing myself a lot of pain and heartache. And I decided, actually earlier this week, the last few weekends, and again, I'm going to be raw and honest with you, the last few weekends I have come home and I have sat and I have bawled, because I overthink things and overanalyze things, and end up feeling sorry for myself, which I should not do. And I had decided earlier this week, I thought, okay, the weekend, when it was getting to be like Thursday, I thought, okay, the weekend is coming up. Let's get a game plan together here. And my people that know me really well call me by my nickname, which I've had over 20 years, which is Pia. And so I refer to myself as Pia. My ex-husband used to call me Penelope. Then it was Pianelope, and then he just shortened it to Pia. That's that little ditty. So anyway, I said to myself, okay, Pia, the weekend's coming and you need to get a game plan going, because you can't do this to yourself this weekend. What I would do is I would sit at home, and my boyfriend is struggling with some health issues of his own, and he just doesn't always like to talk, and part of it I think is just because he's a guy, and I just feel like I'm always giving and giving and giving, and I don't feel like it's reciprocated a lot. And so then I end up reading so much more into things, and then I always end up taking the blame for so many things and beating myself up and just torturing myself over the weekend. And I'm like, you're not doing that anymore. He has to do his thing, and when he's ready to talk, he will talk. And let's get a game plan together, and you just do what something for you, something that you can keep focused on, that's going to be helpful, that's going to get something done around the house, that so that I wouldn't be sitting around moping and bawling and just going through such an emotional, draining time in my life. And so I have a hall closet at the foot of my steps before I go up to come up to my bedroom. And I had the afternoon off on Friday, so I cleaned that out because I had stuff in there from my kids. And so I kind of created a couple boxes, one for one kid, one for the other kid, and going through that. My corner hutch, I went through the bottom of that because it had kind of become a catch-all, kind of rearranged that, cleaned some stuff, some junk out of there, put a tablecloth on my dining room table, just did some nice things for myself, did some laundry, and just yesterday I took a nap, and just trying to not think about all those other things. And I'm happy to say that no, I didn't get through the weekend without crying, but completely. But the reason that I did cry was because I watched a movie on Netflix, and I wasn't sure. Paddleton, I believe, is what it's called. It's got Ray Romano in it. I wasn't sure if I could even watch it. I'm kind of glad I did. It's a different kind of a film. It's a Netflix original, if you do watch Netflix at all. It's about him and a friend that he had made. They're not homosexual, even though at first you're kind of wondering about that, but they're not. They live in an apartment building. Ray lives upstairs and his friend lives downstairs. And his friend gets diagnosed with stomach cancer. And it's kind of deep. So that was the reason why I had tears come to my eyes, and I didn't out and out belly-hoo bulb, just because I'm really trying really hard not to do that this weekend. But it was touching. It was filmed differently than what most typical films are. It was kind of more on the lines, I want to say, of like an independent filmmaker would do, you know. But Paddleton, I believe, was the name of the movie, with Ray Romano, if you're interested in that. Another documentary that an actual documentary that I had watched last weekend was on Kevin Aquan. If you are interested in makeup at all, if you have Netflix at all, I would encourage you to go watch about Kevin Aquan if you like makeup at all. He was really the first male makeup artist really to, I mean, he died in 2002, but just iconic. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Rolling Stone magazine, if you know Tina Turner, and she's like that, whatever, you know, jumped up on the cover of the magazine. He did her makeup for that. He actually helped her with, you know, what to do for that shoot for that. Janet Jackson, who's one of my all-time favorite musical artists, he did her makeup for her video Scream. He's done Liza Minnelli's makeup. He's done just a host of, I mean, supermodels, just way ahead of his time. And it's kind of a sad story. He was adopted. And anyway, if it's anything of any interest to you, go watch it. It's interesting, and it takes you off of your mind, off of yourself, off of food, things like that. So anyway, I'm already 40 minutes into this thing. I didn't even expect to go this long, but I'm going to end, finally, quit my rambling. But I pray that you are healthy, that you're happy, that you are safe. And I pray that you have peace in your life. Until we meet again, my friends, have a fantastic new week. Make sure to keep commenting down below. I love your questions, and I do try to respond to them as soon as humanly possible. Please correspond with one another. That's what I'm hoping to have, is just a network of support here for people who use Topiramate, who have questions, concerns, and to also to share victories and you know, and there's no question that's too silly or strange or whatever. That's the only way we can get an answer, is if we ask a question. So please, please, please continue to ask those questions, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.